Okay, let's go to the next one here. Dominic V sends this one in. Harmon asked for some extra submissions, so I'll make sure you guys aren't any more panicked than I am. Gino is effing washed, and I know Brock Bowers had an amazing season with backup Aiden O'Connell, but I'm worried the teams are just going to hyper-focus on Bowers now that Jacoby is gone, and his ceiling won't be what I drafted him to be. For me, concerned Bowers, Gadsden, and Kraft. Oh, my God. Kraft bro here. Panic level for Brock Bowers after that disaster of a game on Thursday night, Justin Boone.
I mean, can we go more than some panic? I don't know that we can for this one. And part of it's like the caliber of player. Part of it, it's like, what did he do just a week past? Like a week ago, it was 127 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he was the toast of the town. And now everyone's freaking out. And yes, Jacoby Myers left, but like not that much changed, right? So perhaps there's going to be some ups and some downs here for Brock, maybe, more than we saw last year. And maybe that's just a fact that the entire offense kind of doesn't really seem to be clicking and, hitting on the same cylinder. But what I do have questions about for him is I think he's going to go out this week. They get the Cowboys. He'll beat up on the Cowboys. He'll have a good game. Everybody does, right? But then after that, you look at the schedule from week 12 on, and it's Browns and it's Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, Texans. Like, this is very, very scary, I think, for that Raiders offense as a whole. And Bowers is the kind of player that it can be matchup proof, that you're going to start regardless, because what else are you going to do, right? Like, this is one of those situations where there's nobody you got on the waiver wire that you're going to start over Bowers. Even if you got Aronde Gadsden, now he's banged up, right? We're going to talk about him in a second. So you're not going to sit Bowers unless you somehow have Trey McBride as well. And that's just not a realistic scenario that's going to happen on any fantasy team. So you have to play him. And if you're worried about the schedule that I'm pointing out here, maybe you could try to trade him, but you just have to think about what your options are. Like, what do you have that's either on your roster that's going to take over your starting tight end spot, or what are you going to get back in a trade that's going to give you anything near what Bowers could give you, which, like I said, a week ago was 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, tight ends just can't do that. There's like a handful of guys that have that even remote possibility that they could reach that kind of level in a given week. So it's just some panic for me. The offense as a whole, absolute disaster. But Bowers himself, we're still going to see some really big games out of him.
Yeah, if you just pretend that instead of he got all of those points in week 9 and then none of those points in week 10, if you just pretend that he got half of them in week 9 and half of them in week 10, it probably makes you feel a little bit better. But oh man, I mean, I would love to put the whole Raiders offense in the coping corner because I think it is just that bad. I think Chip Kelly he's going to be around for 2 months. 2 more months he's going to hold this job, if that, and then he is out of there. He's done. Ashton Genty's running back 16 in points per game. He's been kind of a small loss player. He's not crushing you, but a small loss player. I think Bowers, just relative to the fact that he went alongside Trey McBride, who now is having like a wide receiver 1 season, but that took a change in quarterback to get there. I think I'm not saying he's going to be a small loss player. He did go very, very high. So I'm with you that ultimately it's some panic, but man, that schedule is brutal. That schedule is pretty intimidating considering just all the other things that are going so poorly for this offense.
Yeah, and it would just come down to what could you get in a trade for Bowers. If you find somebody in your league that is super excited and you can move him and you do have that other tight end option and you could get something else in return that's really, really good, okay. But he is still one of those players that has the massive ceiling, and I would have a very hard time trading him away, even though we mentioned these many times. Like, this is one of those spots where, like, you have Bowers on your team, you don't watch the Raiders games, though. We don't need to watch these games. We'll let that offense go out there and do what they do. And you just hope that at the end of the day, he's got 90 yards and a touchdown.
It was just unfortunate that it happened on Thursday Night Football. So we had to, well, I mean, I guess you don't have to watch it. One of our producers, Jason Jung, is a Raiders fan. He doesn't even watch the Raiders games. So that's where we're at with the Raiders. But week 11, Dallas Cowboys matchup. This is probably going to be a Brock Bowers spike week. So if you want to get out on the Bowers stuff, do it after this week. Sell high after this week before that schedule comes that Justin Boone just highlighted here. Last one we'll take in this section. This comes in from Doug. Hey, Matt and Justin, love the show. I'm hoping there's some decent tight end options on the waiver wire segment today because both my tight ends, Dalton Kincaid and Arande Gadsden, got injured yesterday after not putting up a lot of points. I know the position is up and down, but Gadsden in particular seemed to be having a poor game before he got hurt. Is this a concerning trend without Joe Alt, or should he be fine if he is healthy? Thanks. Couple updates here. Number one, Gadsden is considered day-to-day. Dalton Kincaid is more week-to-week here. By the way, your Bills signed McCole Hardman to the practice squad as we were taping, so they're just overloaded on speed receivers who are like gadget guys. Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore. I think at times in their careers, maybe those guys could have been more. McCole Hardman, I never considered to be one of those guys. So there's one more receiver thing to talk about with the Buffalo Bills. God, what a weird room. Okay, what's the panic level on these two tight ends?
I saw the Hardman thing come up earlier, and I considered mentioning it, and I was like, no, he's not a big enough name. We're not going to bring that up on the show. There's no way. I'm glad you did.
Super Bowl champ.
Well done. Yeah, when we're when we're looking at these tight ends, I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. I think it's total panic. And you said it. It's week to week, but it's also a player who we've seen kind of get his seasons derailed by injuries in the past and come back and maybe not necessarily be the same player. So that's what I'm really scared about here. It's also like, when you talk about those kind of injuries, like he could come back, he could aggravate it. We don't know how long he's going to be out. When they say week to week, that could mean a few weeks. That could mean next week. We really, really don't know here. So that adds to some uncertainty with his fantasy profile. So all those things scare me about him. With Gadsden, it's no panic for me because in this game, I know it wasn't his best game by any means. He still had 6 targets, right? And that's the kind of volume he was seeing in the weeks prior. Like in the 2 weeks before that, he had 5 targets in one game, caught all of them for 77 yards and a touchdown. And then the other game, 5 targets, caught all of them for 68 yards. So this was a down game. He got banged up in it. I'm just chalking it up to that. I still think he is going to have some good performances. The only thing I question with him is, yes, it doesn't seem like it's super serious, just a contusion day to day, all that sort of stuff. They have a bye in week 12 though. So if it is kind of bothering him, could we see them sit him down and potentially bring him back after the bye? That would be the only thing that would factor in there for me. But as long as he's back this week, or if he is back after the bye, as long as he's healthy, I think Gadsden's going to have a strong finish to the year. So no panic on him. But Kincaid, I think this is definitely worrisome. And there was always a little bit of worry in his profile. We brought it up many times, like the way that he's used in the offense and some of the questions about whether he could keep up the touchdown scoring and all those sorts of things. Now we're throwing this injury into it, and that scares me.
Yeah. I totally hear your point on Dalton Kincaid. On Gadsden, I'm with you. No panic from me either. Could maybe miss a week. But the fact that they've got that bye coming up, I think on the other side of it, he should be locked and loaded for a good run to the playoffs. Mentioned the Joe Alt injury in the email. Number one, we can't do the whole he was having a poor game before he got hurt. You just, if a guy gets hurt, you never know what's going to happen in the rest of the game. Like there's a chance Gadsden could have scored a touchdown late in the game, and we're not even having this conversation. So that to me doesn't really matter. You're right. The fact that he got 6 targets, ran a route on 72% of the dropbacks, targeted on 33% of his routes, that's what matters. And Justin Herbert was getting the ball out so fast, 2.2 time to throw in that game overall. That was clearly their answer to the Joe Alt injuries. We're going to do a lot of quick game. We're going to get the ball in the playmaker's hands. And Gadsden is a guy that can make plays after the catch. Didn't do it in this game, but we've seen in previous games, dump it off in the flat, and he can kind of run with the ball in his hands. Bunch of screens to Quentin Johnston, Lad McConkey getting going on quick hitting routes and obviously doing his thing with the ball in his hands. So I think that's what we will see with this team overall going forward. So I think Gadsden can still pile up a lot of production doing that.
Yeah, now I'm going to sit here for the next few days and think about like trades that people could make if you did want to get off Brock Bowers. Like, could you get Gadsden and a piece? And there's some worry about Gadsden's profile with the injury, even though you and I don't seem to be that concerned. Could you potentially get him, who's a mid-range tight end 1 and another starter on your team for Bowers and a lower level piece? Like, those would be some interesting things. I'll see if I can work that into my buy and sell column on Wednesday.
I like that. Make sure you're reading that column every single week because we are reading again in 2025. I've only got a few, like a month and a half left to say that. So we'll see if we're reading again in 2026, but we're definitely reading again in 2025. All right. On that note, we will take our first quick break. When we come back, we'll continue to run through more submissions to the People's Panic Meter. We'll get into that right after this. All right, we're back. We're continuing to run through your submissions to the People's Panic Meter. Let's get to this one from Ali or Ali B. Hi, Matt. This is a weird one because he just keeps scoring touchdowns, but the internet has really wanted me to panic about Mark Andrews for months, citing everything from route rates to age to his expiring contract. I get the touchdowns aren't good metrics for being statistically predictive, but is there a point where a guy scoring touchdowns is consistent enough to maybe indicate that there is a systemic plan behind it? Should I panic about the fact that I'm not panicked about Mark Andrews? For dynasty purposes, is there something about his skill set that could have a hard time translating to another system if he ever left Baltimore? Thanks for all you do. I love this in that the messenger is being gaslit to panic about Mark Andrews, even though he's been useful for fantasy this year. So what's your level of concern for Mark Andrews as he just continues to score touchdowns?
I'm torn on this one. To me, it has to be total panic. And yet I feel like my argument doesn't lean that way. Like my argument probably leans more towards some panic, but it's just so hard to trust a guy who hasn't topped 35 yards in 8 of his 9 games this year, Harmon. And I know a bunch of those, he didn't have Lamar Jackson, so we can chalk up a ton of those to the quarterback situation and the offense being different, but he's the ultimate touchdown or bust gambit, right? And if you just look at Lamar Jackson's full games, we have 5 games where Lamar Jackson played the full contest. 5 touchdowns in those games for Mark Andrews. Like, he does score TDs with Lamar Jackson at a pretty crazy rate. And we saw something last year too, where early in the season didn't have great stats and then just started scoring touchdowns and did not stop the rest of the year. So he can be like that low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2 touchdown or bust type player for you. And it just goes back to the other conversations we had about tight ends today. Like, what are your other options? Who else are you getting? Who's on the waiver wire? We're going to talk about a bunch of guys later when we get to the waiver wire section, guys who are also in that low-end tight end 1, high-end tight end 2 kind of area who you could consider over him depending on the matchup, and yet you're not getting anything for him on the trade market. So it just comes down to what your options are and whether you're willing to pay him or whether you're willing to play him. And for me, I think you have to go total panic based on the yardage, but it's not the type of tight end I want to have on my team. I guess that's where I keep coming back to. And yet at the same time, he's still getting it done.
16 touchdowns in his last regular 18 season games with Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. And yeah, I think you're right. He's a touchdown or bust guy. So in a weird way, I almost have no panic about this because that's what I expect him to be. Like, he's not Mark Andrews from a few years ago.
20 yards, 30 yards. Like, that's rough to live on that when he's doing it every single week, pretty much.
I don't really know what the Ravens are weird right now. They got to get something else going in the passing game in a bizarre way. Like, they have Zay Flowers. That's nice. I just feel like we haven't seen the fully formed version of the Ravens yet. You know, Rashad Bateman will pop up for a play here and there. Mark Andrews is going to score touchdowns. Isaiah Likely hasn't done much so far. DeAndre Hopkins was doing a couple of performative go routes per game, and that was kind of it. It's a bit of a strange situation where they just haven't really needed to come to life yet fully as an offense. Because you beat the Dolphins, that's easy. You know, they didn't have to do much to beat the Vikings. Ultimately, they weren't like in a big back and forth game. But even dating back to earlier in the season, I kind of felt this way a little bit outside of that Lions game where we saw some good moments from other players in the unit. So again, I would just like to see more from some of these guys, but I just don't think Andrews is going to be anything more than, just a touchdown or bust player in fantasy.
And there was mention of dynasty there. Like, I do think that he's reached another phase in his career where we also have to think about the Isaiah Likely of it all. And will Isaiah Likely start to eat into his work more, eat into his targets? We've discussed on this show whether that was a possibility, and we both kind of thought at the time that that is something that could happen the rest of the season. So keep that in mind as well. But for dynasty, I don't think he's going to go anywhere else and have success. Like, I just don't think he's at a point in his career, and I don't think he's the kind of player now where he's going to go to another team in future years and have great fantasy seasons. I don't think he's going to be more than what we're seeing right now, which again is that touchdown or bust kind of fantasy option.
No, I mean, this team, speaking of the expiring contract stuff, this team was comfortable if they had ended up trading him in the offseason. That's where he's at this point. I mean, he's back, though, of course, because just nothing really materialized there. But I think that will be a conversation once again this offseason. And I'm not sure he's going to go somewhere else and immediately be some kind of starting tight end at this point in his career. It feels like those days have kind of passed him by.